Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Steven. As you can see, I'm back in the office having returned from Las Vegas and SHOT Show 2022. And as promised last week, this is the debrief. SHOT Show was fundamentally different this year. Now, I've been going to SHOT for about a decade. And every year there is a normalcy that always sort of is apparent. Okay. First of all, the vendors, for the most part at SHOT, don't change. Now, for those of you who have no idea what the SHOT Show is, the SHOT Show is basically like our Detroit Auto Show of guns. Okay. All the manufacturers throughout the world, really, will debut their next year's models and new products and things like that at this convention that takes place in Las Vegas every year. Last year, there was no SHOT Show because of the toilet paper wars. They had shut it down. Okay, so this is there was that basically almost like a 2-year hiatus, and we're now back. We just had our first one, and there was some real concern as to the number of participants that were actually going to be there this year. As many of you know, the CES, or Consumer Electronics Show, which is the big daddy of Las Vegas shows, took place about 2 weeks ago. Sandy was there for that, and it was dead. They only had about I think they said it was 30% of the regular attendance was present. I mean, it was basically down by about 70%. In any event, so there was a lot of concern as to how many people were actually going to be showing up for this thing. Now, like I said, when you go onto the floor, on SHOT Show, there's a familiarity because all of the vendors are in the exact same places with the same style booths and everything like that. This year was a little bit different. Last year, they had planned to expand SHOT Show into another building that's across the street. It's the Caesars Forum building. So this year, they went ahead and did it. So there was a little bit of a manipulation of vendors because of the new real estate that was available to them. But we did have a lot of vendors that simply weren't there. They made the decision that because of COVID and Omicron and everything else, they were simply going to take a pass this year. This was really odd because they didn't forego their spaces. Their spaces were still there. They were just empty with signs saying, come see us in 2023. Sig Sauer, Beretta, Springfield Armory. I mean, a lot of big name producers were just simply absent this year. This meant that a lot of the smaller retailers, smaller, vendors were having a bigger presence because they weren't necessarily being outshined by some of their larger competitors. There was, and one of the things that I go in it, every year there seems to be sort of a theme that manifests, and it's an interesting sort of study in organic business development because all of these different independent companies are studying the market, they're studying demographic trends, and they're making decisions as to how to move their product lines to address this. And you can sort of see how everybody sort of independently coalesces around this ideal. We've seen everything from 1 year where it's really heavily focused on black scary rifles to another year where it's really heavily focused on, women's pistols. And as I wrote about last year or 2 years ago, I guess, there was a really heavy move towards cowboy action shooting that started to manifest. This year, it was really difficult to really see a common theme initially. But Sandy was the one who actually coined the phrase. I asked her, I said, what did you see? What would you say would be the dominant theme? And without any hesitation, she said, gentleman vintage self-defense. And I think that was a really good way of articulating it. It was very, a lot of the products are, now being made out of wood with a lot of engraving and things along those lines. There's I don't want to say steampunk quality to it, but in many respects, maybe a steampunk quality. It's there's certainly There was, a plethora of black scary rifles. I mean, don't misunderstand me. But this did seem to be the dominant theme. Everything from, cleaning kits that were made out of, these burled walnut wood cases, which were really kind of cool, to tell you the truth. Completely impractical, but pretty nice. All the way to vintage style gun oil and things along those lines. There was one product, and I really encourage you to read the blog on this one. There was a product by Juggernaut Tactical, their new AR-15. It's a featureless rifle specifically designed for the California market. It's really interesting. I do believe legally compliant. Man, right against the line. No question about it, but I do believe it is legally compliant. But in any event, I encourage you to read the blog. Hopefully you enjoy it. As always, feel free to comment directly on the website. It'll go up on Wednesday at artemishq.com /blog. And as always, I want you to train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, and train with purpose. Above all else, stay safe.